gonna review the new 2022 Cabrinha Contra. Alright, so the Cabrinha Contra. Now this has always been one of my top 2 favorite Lightwing kites, and I've been using it on and off for probably a good 5 years now, bouncing back and forth from like the turbine, had some sessions on the Elevate RS 17 meter, and I think there's some really good things about the Contra, and with the latest iteration, I forget when they change it, to be honest, there are some things that I don't care for as much, and we'll break down everything you need to know in this review. So starting with some of the good, one thing that I've always loved about the Contra is provided you choose the right size, and you need to go by your weight, because there's a 13, 15, and a 17 meter when it comes to the 3-strut Lightwing kite. And if you select the right size, you're not going to have a kite that's deceiving. For example, some Lightwing kites, particularly older ones, would have such heavy bar pressure that they created the illusion of power, but there wasn't any power there. So you'd feel lit, and then you'd just be slogging along, trying to stay upwind, and that's really not the case with the Contra. And for me and my weight, I'm right on the line where I could do the 17 or the 15, and after having tried both for a while, I do find that I like the 15 a bit more than the 17. It's more fun, it is a faster, more reactive kite. Let's dial that back. It is a Lightwing kite, so it is fast for a Lightwing kite. In the grand scheme of things, it's actually a really slow kite, and let's hit a con. One of the things with the Contra when I got out the other day, it's been a while since I've flown a dedicated Lightwing 15 meter kite. I have spent a ton of time on like a 14 RPX, and man, when I got on that Contra, my timing was so off. I actually got dropped a ton because I wasn't pulling hard enough and early enough with my front hand to redirect the kite after doing a jump or trying a trick. And that's one thing to keep in mind with a Lightwing specific kite, is you're gonna be out in threshold winds when no one else can ride, but you do need to think 2 steps ahead because they're really not the fastest kites. And on that note, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the leading edge might be a little bit smaller on this version of the Contra, and it might have been that way for a little while now. And something I believe Cabrinha has done is they were thinking about hydrofoiling with the Contra, and actually that's another critique, not being the most balanced here, but another critique is I feel like they have so many kites in their range that are foil specific now that I don't really see the point in taking your Lightwing specific kite and bridging it towards foil. But for the more active kite flyer, and even when I was sessioning, there were things that I did kind of like about that. So to give you a little perspective, I tested it, I had some friends test it. Some of my friends who liked the older Contra really missed the slow stability truck-like pull of the older Contra, and I get that. It made learning tricks easier, tons of power, tons of grunt, just a really reliable Lightwing kite. And this new one, it's super pivoty. I mean, I think I got some shots of this and you can see like I'm doing kite loop transitions. The kite just pivots right around and shoots across to the window. So there really was a lot of benefit to this, and I did appreciate that aspect of the kite, albeit I did miss some of that slow, grunty stability that the previous generation had. So I'm kind of torn on this one. It's actually more of a pro and a con. And I actually think probably the average kiteboarder is going to appreciate this. But if you're somebody who's a little more old school, maybe you're looking to boot up or something like that, I kind of liked the older Contra a bit more, or I would size up to a 17 if I was gonna try some super Lightwing freestyle. Now, moving on to like kite loops, I actually feel pretty good doing kite loops on the Contra. Now, I'm not talking about kite loops where you have to catch yourself. I don't know if I would ever try a kite loop where I have to catch myself with a Contra. Maybe, it is pretty fast. I feel like it was really getting around on some of those jumps, but typically with a kite like this, stick to like back roll hand drags, hand drag based tricks, dark slides, small kite loop transitions where you're maybe jumping like 10 feet off the water. That's where you want to be with the Contra, and it's going to perform really well for that. Probably one of the most versatile Lightwing kites out there, similar to like that RS that I was talking about. You just get so much performance in the threshold winds. This is a kite that I feel good taking out in super light wind wave conditions because it is fast for a big kite, particularly the 15, and especially now that it's a bit more pivotal. I'm going to give that a plus. I really think that's going to benefit in the waves, kind of that more light pivotal feel. Take that with a grain of salt when I say light and fast. This is a big, heavy kite if you're used to flying like a 12 meter or a 10 meter. It's gonna feel like a tank to you. But once you get used to it, you'd be pretty pleased with like the results and how much progression you can make getting out there and trying new tricks, trying different grabs, jumping, and as well on the note of the, I guess that smaller leading edge and just the fact that it is a bit more pivotal, I found this to be a benefit for jumping with a Contra. So typically the Contra isn't a kite that you would think of as like the king jumper because you want a fast kite to flick it up and get that height. But with the Contra, it's a really good lofty feel. So for a lot of you riders who are doing like hooked in scent jumps, you're gonna get a fair amount of loft from the Contra. And if you're a freestyler or anybody who's just getting out there and basically really wanting to send it and go hard, it's gonna make that like threshold super light wind session really fun for you. All these clips that I got, I was actually like borderline underpowered, just barely able to make it work. And kind of funny, I went out 2 days prior and I got these ripping shots and I was so stoked and I was powered up on the Contra. I dropped my GoPro, they're gone. Came back out 2 days later and filmed this in much lighter wind, but probably a more fair assessment of the Contra anyway. So I guess in summary, what you can expect is moderate bar pressure, moderately fast, get ready to think 2 steps ahead. It's gonna kind of hit that fine point for pretty much all disciplines. I think its biggest weakness, honestly, is hydrofoiling, which is funny because they did add that pivotal design, I think, to stoke out some of the hydrofoilers, but ultimately this kite still pulls downwind a bit more than I would want from a hydrofoil kite. But for getting by in the waves, it's killer in the light winds, for freestyle, for free ride, for kite loop based tricks. I'm super stoked on the Contra, using the right size, in the right conditions. So if you're looking for a light wind twin tip kite, whether you're in foot straps or boots, I think it's still a really killer choice. I'm probably gonna keep this one as long as I can till Cabrinha takes it back. And if you got any questions on the Contra or how it compares to the other Lightwing kites, let me know. I just got a fresh juice from Duotone in the RV here, so I'm gonna go out, test the new one, see if I feel any differences, and do a fresh comparison since it's been a few years since I've compared these kites. So if you want to see any comparisons or you want me to try any gear, let me know. We're gonna go hard with reviews this year. So hit me with your questions, leave them in the comments. If you found the video helpful, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and I will catch you later.